I'd like to introduce Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky, leading the 3rd District of the County of Los Angeles. Welcome.
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone, Andy especially, and your team. 9 years ago, I went down to Curitiba, Brazil with Bob Hertzberg, who was then an assemblyman, and one of my colleagues, Yvonne Burke and Dick Reardon and a bunch of others. And we toured there. We were looking at a transportation system which we ended up replicating in a very small part on the Orange Line in the San Fernando Valley. But the thing that blew my mind was not the results that they had achieved in Curitiba, but how they got there, the process, the thinking process, the intellectual process, the analytical process that they went through. And I told this to Andy sometime after I came back. I said, here's what they've got. They've got a city hall, they've got their government buildings and their sanitation districts and all that stuff. And of course they've got a mayor, but the mayor only spends half of his time in City Hall. He goes in the mornings to City Hall. In the afternoons, he goes to another place, which he developed because he was an urban planner professionally. Jaime Lerner was the mayor of Curitiba then. He created this, what I just call a treehouse out in the jungles in the middle of Curitiba. It's as though they had taken a spot in Griffith Park or in Coldwater in Mulholland, and in the trees, literally in the trees, they had developed this, this think tank. All glass, probably wouldn't be exactly platinum leads standard, but it was good enough for Curitiba. And what they had there were a couple of hundred people who did not work for the city, or they were paid by the city, but they did not work in the city buildings. Their only job was to get out of the rat race and into a place where they could think, where their ideas and imagination could soar, and they could think of ways to tweak and improve the transit system, to tweak and improve the sanitation system, and the recycling program, and the computer access program for kids in the poorer parts of town, and you know, on and on and on. And for those of you, and many of you here who know Curitiba one way or the other because you're in the environmental field, Curitiba was on the cover of Scientific American some years ago as the most environmentally with it city in the world. And it's as a result of that kind of thinking that took place, not in the bureaucracy, but outside the bureaucracy. And the proof of the pudding was that their mayor spends half of his day in the treehouse and not in the Oval Office. And that has stayed with me to this very day. In fact, when Bob was running for mayor a few years ago, I told him, this is what you've got to do. And I said, go to Andy Lipkus and do the deal right here at Coldwater and Mulholland. This is where you ought to build a treehouse. Get 50 or 75 of the best minds in Los Angeles and put them up here and let them go, let them think. Not at Rand in Santa Monica and not at Hughes Research Labs in Malibu, but right here where you can see both sides of the hill and where the focus is on real things that affect real people. So of course Andy thought that was a great idea, and he asked me how much I wanted to contribute to the project. And fortunately, I don't have a foundation. Unfortunately, I don't have a foundation, but the Tapers do, and others have made a contribution. And it's not exactly the treehouse in Curitiba, and it's not exactly what Jaime Lerner had in mind, but it is a long way there, and it's going to have the same kind of impact on Los Angeles, not just the city of Los Angeles, but the county of Los Angeles that Jaime Lerner had on Curitiba. We have a long way to go in this town. That's the bad news. The good news is we have a long way to go, and we know where we need to go. And we're making some huge, every time we do something significant in this town, it's making a huge impact. The one that we have partnered, the county of Los Angeles has partnered with TreePeople, is one of the most spectacular projects. Nobody knows about it because it just isn't sexy to MSNBC. You don't crash and burn in interviews on these things. It's just plain old public works. We have been doing a project which is well underway now in the eastern part of the northeastern part of the San Fernando Valley, the Sun Valley Water Reclamation Project, where we are capturing water that is coming off of the mountains in the northeast San Fernando Valley. behind Pacoima and Sylmar up in that area. And those of you who know the Northeast San Fernando Valley, there's this one corner, is it Roxford and San Fernando Road? I think that's what it is. It's Tuxford and San Fernando Road. It is the most flooded intersection in the city of Los Angeles. When it drizzles, they have to put barricades up there and kids can't cross the street on the way to school. And LA County Department of Public Works, our office, Andy, made the decision, we're gonna fix that flooding problem, not in the traditional way of building multi-trillion-dollar concrete channels that take the water and shunt it out to the ocean, but we're going to reclaim the water, capture it, insert it back into the water table of the San Fernando Valley upstream from Tuxford and San Fernando, and from the other flooding areas, and it'd be a win-win-win. Number one, we're going to stop the flooding. Number two, we're going to recharge the groundwater supply. And we're going to clean the water while we're at it. And we've done it. At Sun Valley Park, we have a couple of huge cisterns. Joe Edmiston, nice to see you, Joe. Thanks for those late night emails. Joe's the only one who's up later than I am. Though we have huge cisterns that are being used to capture and filter and save the water and then recharge the groundwater supply. And when we finally had some rain last winter, first thing I said to my staff is go out to Sun Valley. It's raining. Go out to Sun Valley and see what's happening at that intersection. And it worked. It worked. We reduced to practically nothing the flooding that prevented kids from crossing streets and had cars and taxis and trucks floating in the intersection. That's the kind of thinking that 10 years ago in this county would have been impossible to conceive of. And we now have county engineers, just proof that engineers can be at the cutting edge if they're told this is where we want to go. And with the idea engine of Andy Lipkus and Joe Edmiston and thinking people like you, the Ed Begleys of the world, and we are translating ideas into action. And we're doing it not in the environmentally foolish way and backwards way of the 20th century, where we took water and shunted it out to the ocean, but we're actually capturing the water, as Andy suggested, and recharging a depleting water supply. And we're restoring the water, we're recharging the water with cleaner water than they had in the first place before the water was depleted in the first place. It's a great thing. Those are the kinds of ideas that we should replicate all over the region. Those are the kinds of ideas that can be spawned up here. You don't feel like there's a clock, here that you got to punch. You don't feel like like you do in a bureaucratic building. Those of you who work for the government know what I'm talking about. To be out here and be able to see what it is you're trying to change, what it is you're trying to preserve, what it is you're trying to impact, makes a whole difference in what the ultimate result's going to be. So I congratulate Tree People. I want to thank all the donors who made this possible. This is just the beginning. This is just the building. It's not the building that really matters, even though we're happy it's certified as high at the highest level of LEEDs that there is. But it's what will take place inside and around this building that we look forward to seeing. So congratulations. We look forward to continued partnership with you. Thanks, Andy.